Hey, this is Ray with Get Real Ray, a place and space for life and business tips from this creative soul to hopefully inspire you on your journey, or at the very least provide you with some laughs. And so let's get real about my relationship with New York City. I lived in New York for almost 20 years. I moved there in 2001, and then I moved to Connecticut, Bridgeport, Connecticut. I think I moved there in like 2018. And stayed there until 2021. So Bridgeport, Connecticut is like an hour train ride from New York City. And it had a reputation of being dangerous, but where I lived, I never felt unsafe. I lived in two different properties there. One was a apartment building where, you know, there were students going to the nearby college because it was right next to a college campus. And then there were like low-income adults. That was pretty much, or I should say low-income families. It was really cheap and it suited my needs. I had moved there because I felt like New York was making me a very angry person, and I was spending a lot of time working hard to afford to live in New York City. And so at the time, my husband and I made the decision to live apart, not because we were having any marital issues, but because financially it just made more sense. I did not want to stay in New York because I couldn't afford it, and I was just burnt out. And he, loved New York, but also financially, he could not afford to contribute to our home and still pay for his daughter to live the life that he wanted for her to experience. I giggle because I almost said something else, and I'm like, you know what? YouTube don't need to know that. So anyway. We chose to live apart for almost like 2 years or whatever. And then, after COVID, maybe like 6 months after COVID, he and I did decide to move back in together. I was in a better place financially. His daughter was healthy and fine and okay financially. And he was also in a better place financially. So I was like, babe, we're married. And I miss, this is hard enough as it is. Being that travel is supposed to be you should minimize contact with other people during this whole COVID thing. And we went on a vacation, and I don't want to dismiss COVID. I just realized I said COVID thing. But we went on a little trip together. So this is when things had reopened outdoors, and people knew to keep wearing your mask, but people were able to move out and about. And we went on a little vacation together, just road trip. We rented a car, and he doesn't drive, so I was in charge of driving, and we drove. I think we tried to make it to Martha's Vineyard. We drove to Cape Cod. We didn't make it to Martha's Vineyard. We drove to Cape Cod, and just along the northeast kind of coast. So we made it through, up through Connecticut into New Hampshire. I wanted to make it to Vermont and Maine, but that did not happen. But it was still nice to just spend some time together and discover something new together. That's the one thing I will say about that relationship is when we were both in a position where we were learning something new at the same time, that's when our relationship was strongest. But it's really hard to be in that position all the time. And so the rest of the time, our relationship was a mess. But after that trip, I was like, I miss having you around a lot. And so we agreed to move in together. So my last year in Bridgeport was living in a 4-bedroom house. There was only 2 of us. 2 of us and my cat. And then my cat died. And so then it just became 2 adult humans in a 4-bedroom house. And there was a formal living, was it 4 bedrooms? Okay. No, there was 3 bedrooms upstairs, and then downstairs, yeah, I guess that was a bedroom. Yeah, that was a bedroom, actually. So yeah, 4-bedroom house. But we turned one of the bedrooms into our living room, the one downstairs. We had our dining area, and then what would have been considered the main living room was his office. He had so many books, like floor to ceiling bookshelves, and there were 10 of them, and they didn't all fit in that living room. And it was a good sized living room. So one of the smaller bedrooms upstairs was his like second office. So he had 2 offices. I had one office for my work. And I just remember like teaching these online classes for kids, doing jumping jacks, and the ventilation upstairs was not the best. And I would just leave my office after 4 hours drenched in sweat. I'd have to leave the door open. I like try to crack open the window just to get some sort of circulation, because it stank. It stank like me. Doesn't matter how much I showered, deodorant. It was just me in a box sweating for several hours. And it's funny because when I look back on those videos, I'm glowing, but not in a good way. It's like, dang, I am so sweaty. And then we had our shared bedroom. But I left New York in 2021. I think it was, I left November. I remember paying rent for October for another property in Indiana, but I left in November. Now, why? People are like, why did you go to Indiana? Because I was looking at New Orleans, but every place I called, remember, it was still COVID. So every place I reached out to, they were like, no, you have to come here and see the place. We are not going to rent to somebody that we haven't met. And I can understand being concerned about scammers. However, I was not in a position to leave my work to go fly, and I was also not getting on a plane at that time either. So I guess I should say rent a car, drive all the way from New York City to Louisiana, check out some properties only to may or may not be rented to. And I think I secured where I was going to stay before I told my husband that I wanted to separate. I think I did that. Girl gotta have safety measures in place and a backup plan. So this property in Indiana, I saw that they had a YouTube video where the property manager did a walkthrough, and I was like, this looks great. The video looked great. I reached out to their office, and they're like, if you can mail us the money and mail us a copy of your ID, the property is yours. The key will be available, but when you come to the office, you can pick up the key, and we want to confirm your ID is who you are. And I thought that's really smart. Now, unfortunately, I did not realize that mice lived in the walls at that property. So when I moved in, everything looked exactly as it did in the video. I was so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, best decision ever. And I drove U-Haul van from New York City to Indianapolis, Indiana. Unfortunately, I do remember laying there was it the first night? I think it was the first night, like laying there on the floor, super, super tired, and hearing just this little tapping sound. And I was like, oh my God, please don't tell me those are mice. And if you've seen some of my other videos, then you will know that, yes, those were mice. Those were mice in the walls in Indiana. Ultimately, there was even a big rat. Within the first few weeks of my living there, I did catch most of the mice and plug up holes, and things were great for several months, for almost a year. And then my nephew moved in, and I'm not saying it was my nephew's fault. They also like these hoarders like moved out next door. And so I think when those people moved out, and the work they were doing on that place, I think the mice decided, hey, we need some place to go, so we're going to go check out Ray's place. But then it became another nightmare of mice. My nephew had trouble cleaning up after themselves. And so anyway, my experience leaving that place was an absolute disaster. I think I stayed in that space for like 1 year, 6 months. So I guess the last at least 6 months of that place being there was just a mess. That's when the rat came and all kinds of things. And maintenance was just used to me. And then I moved to another property in Indiana that was also a disaster. But you can find out about that disaster in a different video. And so I still went back, even when I was living in Indiana. I lived in Indiana for like 3 years. I still went back to New York City for work during the summer. And when I first started going back, I would do these long drives. So I would drive like 13 hours, work with my clients, and then drive back. And those were some crazy weekends. And I didn't have really time to meet with friends or do anything interesting. So last summer, I had embarked on this house sitting adventure, and I was also cast in a film. I had my not regular clients, but I had my clients for my work. So I had reason to be in New York, but I did not drive. I flew. And it was such a wonderful, relaxing feeling to know that I was just going to get on a plane, arrive in New York City, and have time to actually explore. And so I took so much video. Oh my goodness. And as I've been cleaning off my hard drives, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got so much video. So this is a little bit of a different video because for my little travel videos, I usually just kind of show you whatever I'm going to show you. But there was so much to say about New York that I was like, I want to show my face for a hot second and make comments. So this video is a compilation of a couple of different weekend trips, but it kind of summarizes what I normally do in New York City when I go back. So anyway, I hope you enjoy. Part of this YouTube channel adventure was a friend of mine through Cambly saying, yeah, your life seems interesting. You should probably make a video about that. And I thought that was really cool. A lot of the things that I have wound up doing in life has been because someone has said, give it a try. My entire career as a choreographer, a dance instructor, has been from someone saying, just give it a try. And I thank that woman continuously as much as I can to this day. I'm so grateful for her. I just realized, I only have contact with her through Facebook, and I am no longer on Facebook. So I should really figure out how to get in touch with her. But her belief in me and my ability, and she didn't really know me that well, totally changed the trajectory of my life. And so grateful for that. So anyway, I wanted to share with you, whoever you are, a little bit of my journey, my adventures in New York City, and maybe you'll see some things that you might want to try when you get to go. So come live vicariously. Okay, let's take a look. So my last trip to New York, I booked some private practice time in an aerial pole studio. I had not been in the air since 2020. So I shot this last year, I think. So anyway, like 5 years. Now, way too low on that mermaid move, but I'm spinning it and I am so happy to be in the air. Now, actually, I forgot that I did have a home rig for a couple years, and only for a few months was I able to practice outside, but it got too hot outside, so the poles were like totally burning my legs, so I didn't practice outside much, and then the rig indoors, the ceiling was super low. So anyway, after that practice, I hit the streets, and I went to Vanessa's Dumplings, which if you are a New Yorker, then you absolutely know it is the best spot to get dumplings. A little more expensive than I remember, but honestly worth every penny. So that was down in Chinatown. Now in Midtown, that's where I rent space, so I'm usually walking around a lot. On this particular day, there was this Japanese food festival, and the street was closed off, and there's just all these little stands selling all of this delicious food. Now I'd already had my dumpling, so I did not know about this. And being kind of full just wasn't going to happen, that I was getting more food. A lot of the food festivals that take place outdoors in the streets of New York are actually kind of crappy. There's usually fruit cups, dry arepas, dried chicken on a stick, and then people selling jewelry and clothes, but it's always the same jewelry and clothes. And this festival was completely different. It looked like it was 99% food stands, and you know it's a good festival when there's actually like New Yorkers there getting some food. So anyway, I wish I'd eaten that there at that, but alas, I did not know about it. So I am just keeping it moving. Usually I do ignore these little food festivals because you gotta squeeze past a lot of people, and I think this was maybe coming towards an end. There's like stands set up where I think there was like music or something, probably some entertainment, and people are just having a good time. I mean, look at this. This is one of those beautiful moments in New York City where you're like, yay, summer in New York is a good thing. And it's also really easy to kind of miss this type of thing because you're so focused on like going to, I don't know, like Central Park. Central Park is great. But anyway, so also the Producers Club. I produced a show there. I've performed in shows there. And this is Theater Row, which is a building where smaller theater companies can also produce shows. It's right across the street from the Lower Beachman, which is a really great spot to enjoy some cabaret. And then Chez Josephine is right next to Theater Row, and it is just a really nice spot for a really good meal. Unfortunately, I don't always have the money for an excellent meal when I go to New York City. So Tom Otterness is the sculptor behind that amazing structure that you saw on that playground. I just love his work, and you'll see his work in a lot of different spots in New York City, so like in the subway and stuff. It's kind of fun to see like these weird round-handed headless sculptures. Okay, so yes, I do lots of walk-ins. So I made my way from 42nd Street down to like the 20s. So this is going to be over near Chelsea Market, which a lot of people are familiar with, and Pier, I think it's Pier 20. No, I want to say Pier 21. That's a store. So I forgot what pier this is. But anyway, it's really nice over here. You'll see people like riding their bikes, people taking a walk. And this is a really good way to just get away from all the hustle and bustle and really experience New York for what it is. It is not just all of these stores that you see. Get away from the stores and getting over towards the pier, towards the water is really nice. That was just some random sculpture in Midtown. So I usually will like to just have a seat and just stare at the water. It's cool to see people walking by with their dogs and stuff. And it's just nice to see people enjoying nature. You know, you're not really finding people staring at their phones. And I really like that. Also in Midtown, you'll get a lot of people like stopping and take selfies and stuff. You just don't get that when you walk over to the pier. So get off of 42nd Street, keep walking west until you hit the water, and then walk south and you'll see some good stuff. Now, I love going to Floating Island. I think it's also called Little Island. This kind of popped up during COVID, and I'm so glad that I was able to explore it once, you know, COVID kind of died down. It's just like this little structure where there's gardens and places for people to take pictures or sit and eat. And I know they have like live music and stuff. I haven't seen any music there myself. There's also like a little spot for performances. Now you can see all of these holes in the wall. That's a water. I said wall, but water. that was where the pier kind of used to jet out from, but that wood is all rotten now. So New York, along the western water sides, there's a lot of piers that are no longer in use for boats, and they have been repurposed. So I tell people, when you go to New York, please go to the floating island. Like, look at those kind of, I want to say pistons jetting out of the water, those structures where you have the pole at the bottom and then this kind of concrete coming up. It looks like little cups of nature. Those are my shoes? I'm not really sure what's going on there. Oh, I think I was trying not to film somebody. Like, sometimes I will try to move my camera to not be like, hi, I don't know who you are, but my camera go be in your face. And don't die tripping over some small child. Now, across the way, there's some big building that I remember seeing, like, people having brunch and stuff. I don't know, it was kind of fancy. But we're just, well, you were totally coming along with me down this walkway. So we are going to turn into the little island and explore. It does get hot in New York City during the summer, and there's like those people who are actually hitting these metal plates to make music. Because it does get hot in the city during the summer, it is nice to have places where you can enjoy being outside. With a very dense population, it is nice to be able to have opportunities where money doesn't matter. And New York is an expensive town. Okay, so this is like this cool little area where people can sit and listen to live music. I think there's also, like, when there's entertainment, there's like food and stuff. Now that's a seat, that is a chair, and I've seen many people sit in those chairs and like fall out because they do spin around. The last time I was here, it was full of those blue chairs. There's less of those blue chairs right now. I don't know if that's just like a temporary thing. Now this is a performance area. I am curious as to how you get on stage in that area, but I was literally drooling when I saw that. And then there's someone doing this like spinning thing across the way, which is great to take selfies in front of and just fun to interact. I love that it is set up so that people can interact. And this is just another view of the of another pier. There was another one where, like, I remember when I first moved to New York City, being able to go to the pier and like dance. That was really cool. So anyway, oh, there's me. If you keep going south in Chelsea, you'll find lots of art galleries and different art. On this particular day, most of the galleries are closed. I think the galleries are closed like on Mondays and Tuesdays. Some of them will actually have an artist like standing there creating art, which I think is fun, just to like see that they're supporting an artist. I always wonder who buys this stuff. Like, it ain't cheap. But I guess if you want to be the person to discover the next big thing. Okay, so this is back over at 33rd Street. Okay, so we have come up from 14th and now we're over on 33rd Street in Midtown. There are lots of tourists there, and this is the entrance to the subway. Now this station looks really, really clean. This is the New Jersey Transit side where you can take a train to New Jersey, or if you keep walking through this area, you can take the New York City subway and go to one of the boroughs. It looks so clean here, and yet a lot of the subway stations in New York City are really dirty and gross. You have to remember that the subway system is like over 100 years old. But I am just moseying along. Apparently, I hope this girl does not think I am like stalking her right now, but she needs to get out of my way. We're just gonna pass her up. And you will find lots of people chilling on the stairs. I personally hate that because it makes it hard for people to walk through and you have to step around them and all this stuff. It does bother me, but I'll get over it. You know why I'll get over it? Because maybe at some point, maybe my next trip in New York City, maybe they'll actually like put in places for people to sit. That would be amazing, instead of having us all crowd in like cattle waiting to get on our trains. I know that they try to discourage homeless people from hanging out in the area, but I mean, commuters need places to sit. I actually got really sick from food poisoning and was collapsed on the floor in this very subway station. So this is below Madison Square Garden, by the way. And the police came and they were just like, we can call an ambulance or you can get off the floor, but you can't stay on the floor. And I wasn't passed out, but they just thought I was on drugs or drunk. And so they called the ambulance because I was like, well, I can't get off the floor and I'm, I'm sick. Like, I can't make it to the bathroom at the moment. So that was my first ambulance ride. That was good times. But yeah, most of the food actually in this terminal is not very good, but it's nice to see that the bookstore is still there. They'll have this is a little Amtrak sitting station, but if you don't have an Amtrak ticket, then you cannot sit there. So, yeah. I've actually never been in Madison Square Garden, but clearly I've been beneath Madison Square Garden many times. At some point in my life, I should go. I have heard people say that it's not really worth it because you're so far away from the stage. So I guess it's worth it if you can afford a really good seat. But I think that is kind of the name of the game for many of those big venues is, might as well just save up your money for a really good seat and go once and say you did it. And I'm sure, it's been an amazing experience for people who are going to do it. So this is me heading towards the subway. You can see there's also a sign for the Long Island Railroad, but I'm going to go get on the subway. And people will get on the subway during the summer with their golf bags and tennis clubs and just all kinds of things. And it's kind of fun, kind of good times. So I don't know if you can tell, but on this side, we've got nicer places. Insomnia Cookies, right? It's all shiny. It looks like this might be Wasabi, some Japanese place. So this is the newer side of the transit terminal where everything is really clean. Chopped is there, so you got better food options. And the floor is clean. The lighting is better. And this is what they want tourists to see. Look how nice it is at our transit station. So that little hall that I walked down to get over here, that wasn't so nice looking. There was a little Annie's pretzel all shoved in the corner. And you saw the bookstore, what have you, some, little bar that's been there forever. But on the other side, where they've added a connection for Long Island Railroad, things are much nicer, brighter, and cleaner. So, I wouldn't have minded being on the floor over on this side, but whatever. Okay, clearly they still need to do something about the ceiling when it comes to that lighting. But here we are, finally getting on the New York City subway. We can see that we've got families and tourists and people that don't have housing. And we took the train to Brooklyn. So I used to live off of, this is over in Bed-Stuy, not Bed-Stuy. Is it Bed-Stuy? No, Bushwick. This is over in Bushwick. Okay, so this is Morgan Avenue stop. I used to live off of Bed-Stuy, but I also used to live in Bushwick. And Bushwick is all trendy now from one of those TV shows about Brooklyn. I didn't watch any of those HBO shows. But yeah, maybe you've watched them. I don't know. So we're about to get up out of the subway. This corridor is long, but you can see how the ground is just dirtier, right? And this is Bushwick, so it's still nicer. The tile actually looks fairly clean. This is all still much nicer than many parts of Queens and other parts of Brooklyn. So they like to fix up areas where they being the city, government likes to fix up areas where they feel like, oh, tourists might come through here, so we want it to be clean. Like, this lighting looks fantastic. There was a point where New York City decided they were going to take away all the garbage cans in the subway system to force people to take their garbage with them. That didn't work. Everything was just dirtier. So I just saw that garbage can. I was like, yay. When I first moved to New York, I was like, how do you people know when the train comes? Because there was no signage, like no times. People just stood and waited. I thought, this is ridiculous. But now there's signs. Okay, so we're over in this area where I used to live, and there's this lot next to my old building that's now like a little cute garden or whatever, but it used to just be a lot filled with broken bottles. But this gives you more of an idea of Brooklyn. Like, these people have probably been here a little while. This area is definitely a mix of people who've been there a while and then people who are newer and have money. But you can see, like, there's some trash out. You know, this lady has probably got her laundry. Oh, I stopped to help somebody? That's the kind of person I am. That's the kind of person I am, okay? But yeah, this was my old building. It's looking all nice. I remember we had to move out so they can renovate that nice looking garden. But yeah, when I lived there, it was a total dump, and they completely redid this. This man must be making tons of money, because it did not look like that. And the building next to it, very fancy. It used to be like a trashy house, but not anymore. Making lots of money, Brooklyn. Okay, so I treated myself to a little dessert. So we're back in the city. Now this is over, so this is Soho, down near Prince Street. So there's this app, Too Good To Go, and you can get like food that didn't sell. So I got a little box of food and then took a little walk. This is where people used to go to like see all the models and for model casting calls. I remember going to auditions down in this area. This is where you're gonna find a lot of expensive stores, the Apple stores down here. If you are somebody who wants to buy expensive things, but boutique things, that's where you go. So evening time, back in Chinatown. This is kind of a little bit away from where all the tourists would be as part of Chinatown. Chinatown does blend into Little Italy, which is kind of crazy how they connect. But at nighttime, it's really beautiful. Now, this is the Oculus, which is over near the World Trade Center Memorial. I think it looks really cool at night. During the day, I'm like, there's just this dead fish scale thing over there. But at night, I do think it looks really cool. It's weird. I don't even know why they picked that design. But look at the skyline, so foggy at night. Okay, I think this is when the MTV Awards were in town, because I'm just looking at this signage. So anyway, let's go inside the Oculus. Yay! And here we are inside the Oculus. It is bright, it is white, it is big. If you are taking the train in from New Jersey, then this is what your trip will look like. It's coming up all these stairs. Now, there are lots of stores in here, lots of food eateries, and everything is super expensive. So get back on the subway, Ray. And this is up in Harlem. I was walking along and I saw, like, New York has this thing about little bodegas, these little corner stores. I remember getting cheese sandwiches to like survive off of when I first arrived. They were like $1.25 for some bread, lettuce, and cheese. No meat. But the reason why I took a picture of this also is because there was this apartment that had a ton of plants in the window, and I just could not figure out how those plants were living. So, I mean, it reminds me of that movie, like Little Shop of Horrors. But the cool thing about being up in Harlem is just seeing people out with live music and just enjoying themselves, like families gathering, the community. I love it. And I always get some cheap Chinese food when I am in town. It's the other place I really love to get Chinese food is San Francisco, but that's like clean, decent, and the second best is New York's little cheapo places. All right, and now I'm in this like hostel where you literally sleep like you're in a little coffin, but it is actually affordable and I can plug in my stuff and feel safe. There's one other person in this room, but I have this little door to keep me secure. I think I was on the top bunk. You're sharing with only one other person. I think this is the Karma Hotel or something like that. So anyway, hope you found this fun and enjoyable. Oh yeah. So even if I had the money to get another room right now, it kind of doesn't matter because once you pass midnight, hotels don't take new reservations for that night. Like, I would be reserving for the next day. Yeah, they don't really allow check-in before 3 or 4 p.m. usually. Now, if you already have a reservation, you can show up early, and I've been able to get in a room early if there's a room claim. But in this case, when you don't have a reservation and you book city for Friday, you're looking at Friday night, not Friday morning. They can't turn back the clock. So yeah, basically, a few more hours to go.